Welcome, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something incredibly serious, and honestly, deeply troubling.
Yeah.
Human trafficking in Asia.
It's a topic that definitely needs our full attention.
Absolutely. The sheer scale.
Yeah.
It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes. We're looking at figures from the International Labor Organization, just from April 2025, and they estimate over 15 million people in the Asia-Pacific region alone trapped in forced labor.
15 million, and that's what, more than half the global total?
Exactly, more than half. It's staggering.
It really is. It's often called a hidden crime, but the consequences, well, they're devastatingly visible, aren't they?
Absolutely. They just ripple outwards.
Exactly, from the individuals themselves to, well, fracturing whole families, even entire communities.
So our mission really in this deep dive is to try and understand the dark realities, the sort of socioeconomic forces behind it.
And also, importantly, look at what's being done, the efforts to actually combat it.
Right. And the exploitation, it takes so many forms. Our sources talk about forced labor in really hazardous industries.
Yeah, places that just steal people's health, sometimes their lives.
And then there's the sexual exploitation side, which is just utterly dehumanizing, robs people of their futures.
It truly does. But we also want to touch on the hope, the resilience.
Yes. The survivor stories, they're incredibly important.
Like that young woman rescued from prostitution in Southeast Asia, or the migrant workers finally freed.
Those stories really highlight the human cost, but also, like you said, the possibility of hope.
And they give us crucial insight, don't they, into the reality victims face, and also the dedication of people trying to make a change.
So we'll be looking at strategies from governments, NGOs, activists.
Yeah, digging into what's working. There have been successes. Thousands rescued, hundreds of traffickers convicted.
And specific initiatives, too, right? Like UN Women's work on the Thailand-Myanmar border.
Exactly. And USAID in Central Asia. We'll get into those.
So the focus is really on understanding what's effective, but also where are the roadblocks, the challenges that still remain.
Precisely. And ultimately exploring how maybe you, the listener, how we can collectively make a difference.
Okay, so let's get into it. This dark reality.
Well, first off, it's crucial to understand this isn't just petty crime. It's a massive industry.
Multi-billion-dollar, right?
Absolutely. And it thrives, unfortunately, on these deep socioeconomic inequalities you see across Asia.
And the UNODC, that's the UN Office on Drugs and Crime,
Right.
they paint a really stark picture for South Asia specifically.
They really do. The estimate is over 150,000 people trafficked.
Every single year.
Every year, just in that sub-region alone. Yeah.
And the numbers for women and girls are particularly bad.
Extremely alarming. Yeah, they make up a huge proportion, facing forced labor, sexual exploitation, even forced marriage.
And if we look wider at East Asia,
the scale just gets bigger. Estimates there suggest around 25 million victims.
25 million. Wow.
Yeah. And labor exploitation is huge. Fishing, construction, manufacturing.
Alongside the sexual exploitation that just persists.
Exactly. It's deeply embedded.
So what drives this? What are the underlying factors? It's not random, is it?
Not at all. There are very specific socioeconomic drivers. Poverty, lack of education, limited job opportunities. These are key.
They create this vulnerability.
Precisely. A breeding ground, really, for traffickers to prey on desperation.
You see that in places like rural Cambodia, don't you?
Very clearly. Young girls from poor backgrounds, they get targeted with these fake job offers.
Like in tourist spots, Siem Reap, maybe.
Exactly. Promises of good work, but then they arrive and are forced into prostitution. It's horrific.
Just a complete betrayal.
Yeah.
And that's where initiatives like Salabai come in.
Yes, they're so important. Providing vocational training, hospitality skills.
Giving real alternative.
Exactly. Directly addressing that economic vulnerability. They've trained over 1,500 women. Most get jobs. It significantly reduces the risk.
But it's not just those in traditionally poor situations anymore, is it? There's this other trend.
That's a really critical point. It's evolving. A 2022 Time report out of Hong Kong highlighted this. White-collar trafficking.
White-collar, so targeting graduates.
Yeah, exploiting post-pandemic joblessness.
There.
Using fake, high-paying tech job ads.
Wow. And then what happens?
They're lured in, kidnapped, and then forced into these awful online scam operations, often in places like Cambodia or Myanmar.
That's chilling.
Yeah.
So adaptable. So ruthless.
It really is. And that story of Dee from Hong Kong.
Right. Lured with a promise of, what, over $6,000 a month?
Yeah, in Thailand. But then smuggled into Myanmar.
And forced into 12-hour days running phone scams. under threat of violence.
It just shows anyone can be a target if the methods are sophisticated enough to exploit some vulnerability,
Sure.
economic pressure, job desperation.
And their tactics, the sources say, are highly manipulative,
Yeah.
coercive.
Absolutely. Debt bondage is a classic one we see again and again.
Explain that a bit. It's like fake debt.
Exactly. They fabricate or inflate debts that are impossible to repay. Think of the brick kilns in Cambodia.
So workers are basically trapped, indentured.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Caught in this cycle they can't escape.
And it's not just money, they use threats too.
Oh, yes. Threats against family members. It's incredibly cruel, but very effective for control. It silences victims.
That's obviously seeking help.
Right. And then there's the a horrific rise in online sexual exploitation of children, OSCC.
Particularly in the Philippines, the sources mentioned.
Yes, and the details are just deeply disturbing. Traffickers, sometimes even parents.
Forcing children into live-streamed abuse
Mm.
for foreign buyers.
Yes, and IJM, International Justice Mission, their statistic, nearly half the kids they rescue are 12 or younger, some as young as 2 months.
That's almost unimaginable, the depravity.
It shows the extreme vulnerability. So when you look at the whole picture, the scale, the drivers, the tactics, the impact is just devastating.
On the victims, obviously, but also their communities.
Immense physical and psychological trauma for the victims. Think about those 12, 16-hour days.
In dangerous conditions, right?
Yeah.
Like construction in Thailand, fishing in Indonesia.
Exactly, often with zero safety measures. So injuries, chronic health problems, it's lifelong suffering for many.
And for those in prostitution.
Added layers of horror, sexual violence, STIs, and severe mental health issues. PTSD is common.
Plus the shame, the stigma.
It compounds the suffering immensely. They fear being judged even if they escape.
And the families left behind.
Also suffer terribly, kids dropping out of school.
Perpetuating that cycle of poverty we talked about.
Exactly. And on a community level, these trafficking networks just erode trust. They exploit local vulnerabilities, create fear.
Undermines the whole social fabric.
Fundamentally. So it becomes pretty clear who gets targeted most often.
Right. The sources consistently point to migrant workers, women, and children.
Due to that combination of socioeconomic hardship and often lack of legal protection.
Let's maybe unpack that a bit for each group. Migrant workers first.
Okay, so the desire for better jobs, it drives millions across Asia, right? To places like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore.
And that USAID report from 2021 highlighted Central Asians facing exploitation while seeking work.
Yes, millions seeking better futures, but finding themselves incredibly vulnerable on those migration routes.
And the pattern is often deception.
Very often. Lured with promises of good jobs, construction is a common one in Southeast Asia.
But the reality is completely different.
Brutal. 14-hour days, little pay, awful living conditions, and crucially, passport confiscation.
Trapping them, taking away their freedom to leave.
It's textbook control. But thankfully, interventions happen. NGOs, local authorities.
They can provide that lifeline, shelter, legal help.
Yes, and support for repatriation, getting them home safely.
Okay, turning to women and girls, the stats are really bad there.
Truly alarming. UN Women says they're the vast majority globally, and over 60% of victims are in Asia.
It highlights how gendered this crime is.
Deeply. And that example of the young woman promised a waitress job.
Only to be sold into prostitution. It's disturbingly common.
Forced into 12-hour days, no medical care, horrific exploitation.
But her rescue by an NGO, getting counseling, training, safe housing, that offers a path forward.
A vital pathway to rebuilding her life.
And finally, children. Their vulnerability is just profound.
Probably the most concerning, targeted for labor, and as we discussed with OCC, for sexual exploitation.
Those estimates from Cambodia, suggesting maybe 22% up to 72% of girls trafficked for sex are minors.
It's a terrifying range, highlighting just how pervasive it is.
And back to OSCC in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Children just months old exploited, often coerced by family poverty.
Utterly devastating. It just screams for urgent protection and intervention.
And the trauma requires years of therapy.
Long, specialized care, like UNODC's work with those 1,200 children in Indian shelter homes. It's a very long road to healing.
It really is. But amidst all this darkness, it is crucial to talk about the efforts being made to fight back.
Absolutely. And the framework often used is the 4 Ps.
Right. Prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership.
Exactly. It captures the comprehensive approach. And while the challenge is huge, there are successes. People are being rescued, traffickers are being prosecuted.
So let's start with prevention. That first line of defense. Awareness and education must be key.
Critical. And campaigns are adapting, like USAID's Safe Migration Project in Central Asia.
They used websites during the pandemic.
Yeah, like Kloop.kg, putting hotline numbers out there for stranded migrants. Very smart.
And in Cambodia, the U.S. Embassy warning about fake job ads on social media.
Right, and apparently after a police campaign in 2024, there was a reported 15% drop in cases linked to those online scams.
So focused awareness can work.
It seems so. And on the education side, you have places like Salabai again in Siem Reap.
The Vocational Training Center.
Yes. That 11-month hospitality training, guaranteed jobs. It's transformative prevention.
Addressing the root economic cause.
Directly. Over 1,500 trained, 90% employed. That really lowers the risk profile.
And Medi Nepal, working in schools.
Another great example. Reaching thousands of students annually. Teaching them about the dangers, the fake offers. Empowering them with knowledge.
Then there are policy measures.
Absolutely fundamental. USAI backing advocacy in Kazakhstan for a new anti-trafficking law.
Aiming to criminalize the whole network.
Exactly. And UN Women's Project on the Thai-Myanmar border, using that women, peace, and security lens.
Giving economic alternatives, like microloans.
Yes, to about 500 high-risk women, reducing their vulnerability directly.
It's all about building resilience, providing real options. Okay, let's move to the second pay, protection, victim support.
Crucial. Rescue and rehabilitation are often the first steps. The U.S. Embassy in Cambodia working with NGOs.
They helped over 2,000 victims in recent years.
Between 2019 and 2024, yes. And helped reintegrate over 1,300 Cambodian returnees.
And that story of the young woman rescued from the brothel.
Yeah.
It shows the need for holistic support, right?
Totally. Counseling, medical care, vocational training, empowering her to start her own business eventually.
Financial independence is key to breaking free.
Definitely. And UNODC's project in Kerala, India, rehabilitating 1,200 child victims in shelters, training caregivers, providing career counseling.
Shows the specialized long-term care needed, especially for kids.
Absolutely. And safe reintegration is vital to stop re-trafficking.
Like that U.S. State Department project in Ukraine, identifying child victims, helping forced labor victims with housing, legal aid, job training.
Exactly. And USAID funding in Guatemala led to a reported 20% drop in re-trafficking rates after long-term rehab. Sustained support worked.
There's a growing focus on trauma-informed care.
Yes, thankfully. The Asia Foundation's work under Priya Dhanani.
Across 18 countries.
Yes, integrating services for gender-based violence and trafficking survivors. And seeing results, 80% report better mental health after 6 months.
Healing those psychological scars is just as vital. Okay, third P, prosecution. Strengthening law enforcement.
Fundamental. Training is key. The U.S. State Department program in Indonesia.
Training police, labor inspectors, prosecutors together.
Right, a multi-agency approach. And it led to, I think, 50 trafficker convictions in 2022.
And UNODC training officers in South Asia, India, Nepal, Bangladesh.
Over 1,000 officers trained in victim ID and investigation in 2023, resulting in a reported 30% rise in trafficking arrests.
Legislative reform helps too, presumably.
Hugely. Cambodia's 2024 TP report recommendations, backed by the U.S., led to more prosecutions, 75 convictions in 2023, up from 50.
And Central Asia improving its TIP rankings.
Yes, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan reaching Tier 2 in 2021, thanks to stronger laws and enforcement boosted by that $20 million from USAA.
Because trafficking crosses borders, international cooperation is essential.
Not negotiable. Like Hong Kong police working with Interpol using a U.S.-Mexico model to rescue victims from Cambodia and Myanmar in 2022.
And that UNODC workshop in Kolkata back in 2010.
Facilitated cooperation that led to extraditing 10 traffickers across South Asia by 2012. Shows the power of working together internationally.
Which brings us nicely to the fourth P, partnership, collaboration.
Absolutely critical. This fight needs everyone. NGO government partnerships are vital.
Like Cheremai in Nepal, a survivor joining the National Anti-Trafficking Committee.
Yes, back in 2009, ensuring survivor voices shaped policy. Led to survivors on 15 district committees by 2011. So important.
And IJM partnering with police in the Philippines against OSCC.
Incredibly effective. Rescuing 500 kids since 2015, doubling convictions in 2023 through better evidence sharing.
The private sector's getting involved too.
Increasingly, yes. Which is encouraging. Standard Chartered working with Liberty Shared.
To disrupt the money flows.
Exactly. Sharing intelligence with banks. Led to freezing $5 million in trafficking assets in 2022, hitting them where it hurts.
And that fishing forum in Southeast Asia.
The SEA Forum for Fishers launched 2018, Coordinating governments, employers, NGOs reported a 10% drop in cases by 2023.
And community initiatives, like UN Women in Thailand.
Working with the Center for Girls Foundation in border areas, training community leaders to spot risks.
And that led to interceptions.
Reportedly intercepted 50 potential cases in 2023 thanks to those trained leaders. Grassroots action matters.
So these 4 Ps, they offer real hope. And those success stories we touched on earlier really drive home the impact.
They really do. That young woman rescued in Southeast Asia,
Lured by a job promise, forced into prostitution.
enduring horrific abuse, then rescued in a raid in 2022, getting counseling, medical help, learning to sew.
And starting her own business, gaining independence by 2024, now advocating for others. It's incredible.
A true testament to resilience and the impact of support. And the migrant workers freed in Thailand.
Promised construction jobs, trafficked to a remote site.
14-hour days, passports taken, then rescued in 2023 by an NGO and authorities.
Getting shelter, legal help for back pay, support to go home.
And 80% did go home, joining safe migration programs by 2024. Coordinated rescue and follow-up are key.
These stories show progress is possible, but the sources are clear. Major challenges remain.
Huge challenges. Low awareness, especially in rural areas, is a big one. How can you fight something people don't even recognize?
And that gap is massive, right? You have 15 million estimated victims, but only about 24,000 identified annually in Asia-Pacific.
Exactly. It shows how much is still hidden. And corruption.
Mentioned in Cambodia's TIPI report, it just undermines everything.
Completely. It hampers law enforcement, justice for victims. It's a major obstacle.
Plus underfunded victim support services.
Right. UNODC in India reaching only 1,200 out of millions at risk. It shows the resource gap.
And tackling cross-border stuff like OSCE in the Philippines needs global cooperation, which can be tough.
Very difficult without strong international partnerships and shared commitment.
Okay, so facing these challenges, what can be done? What are the ways forward?
Well, definitely increased government funding for victim services. We see the results when it's there, like Cambodia reintegrating over 1,300 people.
And serious anti-corruption measures.
Essential. Like that task force in Thailand monitoring police. Early signs suggest it might be increasing convictions. Needs sustained effort.
Technology seems to be playing a bigger role.
It does. Both for disruption, like Liberty Shared's financial intelligence.
And for understanding the problem better, like that counter-trafficking data collaborative.
With 91,000 case records, yeah. Data is crucial for targeted interventions.
And strengthening international frameworks, like the ASEAN Convention.
Making sure they're properly implemented, ensuring victim care across borders. USIBI supports this. A unified regional approach is vital.
So, thinking about our listeners, what can they do? How can individuals help raise awareness?
There's actually quite a lot individuals can do. Social media is powerful.
Sharing stories, stats, using hashtags like #EndHumanTrafficking.
Exactly. Amplify reliable information, like that EEOC campaign reaching 20,000 users quickly. It spreads awareness.
What about offline? Community events.
Definitely. Film screenings, fundraisers for reputable anti-trafficking orgs. It educates locally and raises crucial funds. Think about Nepal's Freedom Week engaging thousands of young people.
And education in schools.
Hugely important for long-term prevention. Supporting groups like Love on 46, or promoting resources like the Blue Campaign's curricula. Educating the next generation.
And pushing businesses for corporate responsibility.
Yes. Encourage companies to have strong anti-trafficking policies. Support fair trade products. Use your consumer power. Remember, standard chartered Liberty Shared disrupting finances. Businesses can make a difference.
And finally, advocacy, contacting officials.
Absolutely. Write to your elected representatives. Demand stronger laws, more funding for victim support. Citizen voices matter. Look at the proposed law in Kazakhstan following advocacy.
It really hammers home that this is a collective responsibility. It needs everyone working together.
Precisely. Governments need to step up with laws, enforcement, resources.
NGOs are crucial on the ground, providing direct support.
Like the Asia Foundation, like IJM rescuing those kids.
And individuals. We can raise awareness, volunteer, donate.
Support initiatives like Salabai, empowering women. Every contribution counts.
And crucially, as we saw with Charmaya in Nepal, centering survivor voices in policy.
Absolutely essential. Their insights are invaluable for creating solutions that actually work and are truly victim-centered.
So ultimately, tackling human trafficking in Asia, with millions caught in forced labor, sexual exploitation, driven by poverty, lack of opportunity, it's just a profound moral issue.
It demands our urgent, unwavering attention.
But the stories we've heard, the rescued woman finding independence, the freed workers going home, they show hope is possible. Recovery is possible.
And the efforts underway, UN Women, USAI, Salabai, countless others, they are making a difference, slowly but surely.
But we can't ignore the challenges. Low awareness, corruption, underfunding.
Yeah.
There's still huge barriers.
Which means we need more investment, serious anti-corruption drives, better global collaboration, no complacency.
So we leave you, the listener, with this thought. This fight needs all of us. Our attention, our commitment, our action.
Raising awareness, advocating for policy change, supporting ethical businesses and organizations, these are tangible things we can all do.
Because fundamentally, fighting human trafficking is about changing millions of lives. It's about restoring dignity, restoring freedom.
So the question for you is, what do you think can be done to really boost awareness about this issue? And how can we collectively work better to actually stop it?
We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts. Please share them in the comments below.
And do check out the other deep dives on related topics to learn more.
Because together, we really can shine a persistent light into Asia's darkest corners and hopefully build a future free from human trafficking.